You know what I learned after watching Monday Night Football last night between the Steelers and the Dolphins? I learned that timing, listen to this, timing beats talent in January.
Mm.
The Steelers took down the Miami Dolphins 28-15 on Monday Night Football. And there is one thing that I really have to get off my chest. The Miami Dolphins fourth quarter was the most embarrassing, the most egregious performance I've ever seen of a football team trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. That's one thing near or there. But the Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, old man Rodgers, we got a couple of those now in the league. Old man Rivers, old man Rodgers, the whole bunch. Aaron Rodgers is not breaking the bank with yardage, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, but efficiency, 23 for 27. He's finding ways to make this Pittsburgh Steelers team now a game ahead of the Baltimore Ravens. They're on a 2-game winning streak. One of those games was against the Ravens just before this Dolphins win, and they have a front row seat to get into the postseason, winning the AFC North. Let's look at the AFC playoff race real quick. The Steelers currently will hold the 4 seed, although they are 8-6. Some of these other teams have 10, 11 wins, like the Houston Texans sitting in 7th seed have a better record, but that's just how divisions work. If you don't like it, take it up with your local congressman. But I mean, the biggest thing here is that I think this is the toughest team. No, I take that back. This is one of those teams that you should not want to play come January.
Yeah, it really is all about timing. And for the Dolphins, I just wanted to throw this out there really quickly because I remember sitting at it was some crazy bar, actually, some bar I've never been to before, watching I believe it was the Ravens-Dolphins game where they were just getting their doors blown off them, and talking with a couple Dolphins fans coincidentally, and they were like, yeah, McDaniel's gone, like this is just not working anymore. But then they turned it around. So I'll give the Dolphins credit for the win streak that they went on. Obviously, the Steelers were able to put an end to that. But I am curious kind of what the Dolphins will look like next season just because of this weird stint. Obviously, beating the Bills, beating the Commanders, beating the Saints, beating the Jets, like kind of ripped off a few wins there, kind of figured it out a little bit. Could get it done against the Steelers. And maybe the Steelers team is just okay. Like they're better than the Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins are that great. It might be just a matter of they're slightly better, or the Dolphins just weren't able to show up playing in Pittsburgh weather. That's something that we've talked about for quite a while now with this Miami team. Can they handle the cold weather? They haven't really shown that. So I did want to give them a little bit of credit. But yeah, when it comes to the Steelers side, this is a very hot team right now. Like it really is a matter of not when, or not who, but when, right? And this Pittsburgh team, certainly a team that they're clicking on all cylinders. They might not have every single piece that's like, oh, this is a championship caliber team, right? When you look at it on paper, but there's something about the way that they're playing that puts them in that conversation, I feel like.
Yeah, let's continue this Dolphins talk real quick. You talked about how they started terrible. They had a good year towards the middle of the season and obviously fell off. The fact that they were even in the playoff race 3 weeks before the season was over is impressive. I'll give them that. But yeah, you're right. They can't play in this cold weather. And Tua is now 0-6 in games that is less than 40 degrees. I mean, and then you're playing against Aaron Rodgers, who built his entire career in Green Bay, right? So, that doesn't help you by any stretch of the imagination. But I am curious to see what Miami will look like next year. Will it mean Tua being the quarterback? Will it mean that McDaniel is the head coach? Did you see his press conference after? I mean, he didn't even know how to speak. The people were very, very concerned about how he was talking. That's just kind of normally how he is. When it came to Tua, one of the things that I get to see with primetime games, my wife usually decides to watch these games with me at primetime. We actually sit down and watch these football games. She was very entertained because they showed basically a highlight reel of Tua, but it was the complete opposite. They showed all his interceptions on the season based on right during the game. After he threw his pick, they're like, "Oh, by the way, this isn't new. He's thrown 15 other of them during the season this year." I mean, they were just killing him, man.
That's hilarious. They're like, hey, by the way, guys, this is actually pretty standard operating procedure. The Dolphins could still win this game. That's hilarious. I did not know that. I don't even have a comeback for that. I feel for Dolphins fans, though, genuinely, because there was so much hype around this. Not necessarily this team, not this year, but just this construction of this roster. Obviously, Hill, when he came over, and Waddle and Achane and McDaniels, and like there's this whole thing, and it just hasn't really panned out. And if you're asking me, obviously we'll talk a little bit more about the Steelers here in a second, but if you're asking me, I think this Dolphins picture has to blow up. I'm not saying McDaniels isn't a good coach. I'm not saying Tua isn't a good quarterback. The way it's constructed right now just isn't going to work. Like it has to look different if you're Miami, and those guys can go be successful elsewhere. Look at like what Baker did, right? Like wasn't successful really. I would say probably at the Browns is like the best example. Just wasn't a good click. It wasn't a good fit. Works fine in Tampa. So that's me. If you're Miami, I think it's time to move on. But as far as Pittsburgh, I mean, they've got it rolling right now. So the rest of their season, they've got the Lions, the Browns, and the Ravens, an opportunity to really close out that AFC North the last 2 weeks of the season. Can they go 3-0? Where do you think the Steelers are at right now?
Well, inevitably, it seems like they'll probably lose the next two and then beat the Ravens to go 9-8 because Mike Tomlin just sticks around 500 and still finds a way to make the playoffs, right? Like that's just normally what happens when it comes to the Steelers. Who's more for credit here? Mike Tomlin for what he's done? I mean, there's been a lot of rumors about him being on the hot seat this year. Even Ben Roethlisberger going out on his podcast saying like maybe it's time for Mike Tomlin to move in a different direction if he wants to. He kind of walked back on his words a little bit on Monday Night Football yesterday. Or is it Aaron Rodgers, who of course comes out? This is looking like it's going to be his final year in the NFL. And he is trying to get this team to the playoffs. With Kenneth Gainwell, he deserves a lot of credit at the running the back department. A lot of people didn't give a lot of credit to this running game. He's really proving to be a good veteran presence in the backfield. DK Metcalf with the trade. Then you're seeing some of these other veteran wide receivers like Marquise Valdes-Scantling. You're seeing Adam Thielen make some noise for the Steelers. Who gets the credit here for the Steelers being in playoff contendership? Or is it the complete opposite of the Bengals, the Ravens, those teams just completely just underachieving?
I mean, if you're going to give credit to anybody on the Steelers, it's Mike Tomlin, because you're right. There was a conversation, like this hot seat conversation going on. Is
Still
Mike
there.
Tomlin? For sure. But middle of the season, it was, are the Steelers even going to get to 9-8? Like what is going to happen the rest of this year? And I'm not even giving, this is going to sound so bad, but I'm not even giving Mike Tomlin credit. I think he has some sort of magical superpower. Like I genuinely think he just is able to achieve that winning season no matter what. It does not matter. Wins, losses, they will end up at 9-8. I don't know how. So I'm giving the Steelers success to Mike Tomlin. I don't know if I'm giving Mike Tomlin the credit. Looking at Rodgers this season, 2,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I mean, that's a pretty good season. Like that's not anything too crazy. It's obviously a down year by, I would say, Rodgers standards, but I mean, he was drafted in 2005. Like I was 4, so just put some reference on that. It is insane to think how long he's been in the league. So same thing with Rivers. We were talking off air. Like he just doesn't have the arm anymore. I'm not saying Rodgers doesn't have the arm, but it's different now. So I'm not going to take anything away from Rodgers either. I just think it's the perfect culmination of everything, right? Like you have Mike Tomlin, who's going to find a way to have a winning season. You have a veteran quarterback who's going to keep the ball for the most part out of harm's way, only 7 interceptions to the 22 touchdowns. And then you have, some of those big trades like the DK Metcalf, like the running game that you alluded to or mentioned. It's all working. The division is kind of failing right now. I do feel good because the Patriots play some of those teams down the stretch. They need it. We'll talk about that Bills game in a second, but it just comes down to the right time, right place for the Steelers. Like they're going to find a way to get into the playoffs, and they're going to be in a game. Now, can they finish it out? That's to be determined.
They finished the season at Detroit, at Cleveland, and then they finished the season, the final one, against Baltimore. That could determine the division if things work out that way. But right now, the Steelers do hold a 1-game lead on the Ravens, and they did win the first game just last week against the Ravens. As of right now, they'll probably be the 4th seed no matter what, whoever wins that division. The other divisions look like they're stronger. Looking at this playoff picture one more time, if the season ended today, the Steelers would take on the Chargers in Pittsburgh for the wild card round. They take on the top wild card team. How do you feel about that game if you're Aaron Rodgers against Justin Herbert, who also has some injuries on his offensive line? How do you feel about Aaron Rodgers being able to go in against Harbaugh and Herbert?
I mean, the one credit I'll give Aaron Rodgers and co is the temperature. And we talk about that a little bit in every game, but we talk about it because it's legit. It is I was walking out to my car the other day to go to the grocery store, and I was like, good God, I genuinely said this. Can you imagine being hit by a 35-year-old linebacker right now? I'd be like a Lego piece. I explode into dust. It would not be good. So those Chargers are going to have to go up into Pittsburgh, and that's going to be a very real thing. Other than that, though, I do think the Chargers are better. But when those two kind of meet each other, it's a level playing field, and Rodgers has so much experience in that environment, you just can never count him out.